Cheers, guys. Epix911, welcome to the Elitist Geek and another news update video. So in this, we're going to touch on a couple of relevant news topics. I also want to explain kind of the direction of the channel moving forward, how things are going to be structured. So you may notice that there was the first in the gaming series posted. And what I want to be able to do on this channel is, you know, as long as I'm able to reply to people with questions, because it's been growing really, really fast, I'm going to continue to do that. I don't care if it takes me hours. I'll set aside the time because I think it's important, because not only have you guys assisted me, given me ideas, given me games to play, content for videos, without that interaction, it just wouldn't have happened. And yes, there's always haters, there's spammers. You know, I don't go out of my way to delete any comments. If there's stuff on there about, you know, mutilating and killing people, that's a little different. But your typical kind of spam stuff, whatever, I don't sweat that, right? Because the benefits so outweigh the negatives. Like I said, there's been awesome dialogue back and forth between us. I want to kind of retain that and use that as the basis of how I approach the gaming videos. Case in point, you guys ask me a lot of questions, or a lot of you ask questions about tweaking VR, settings. How can I make game A look better or game B look better? Does this have the same impact? Does option A still have the same impact in VR like it does on a 3D, on 2D monitor? Those kind of things. So how I'll approach gaming videos is I'm going to deal with the technical side, how to make it look better, how to make it run more efficiently, what options you don't need, all that kind of stuff. And then a second half, which is the actual gameplay. What you can expect, is it multi, single, plot lines, you know, like without revealing the plot, what's the game about, right? When possible, that'll be one video. When not possible, it'll be split in two. I'll always try to include timelines, so if there's stuff not relevant to you, you don't have to watch it and sit through it. I.e. tech stuff you don't care about, get to the game, you can get to the game. If you do care about the tech, could care less about the game because you've already been playing it, you can watch it that way. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. Elite's just the first one. No intention to piss anybody off by picking Elite. I just thought it was kind of tongue-in-cheek because I'm always talking about Elite Dangerous. So what do I start as the first game? Elite Dangerous. But do not fear, this is not some whole series on Elite. That'd be kind of funny, but it's not going to happen. The second part is the gameplay, and then I'm moving on to all the other games, including all the games that you guys have recommended. So that's kind of where we want to go direction-wise. Now to the news. So one of the features, and it actually ties in nicely to Elite Dangerous, is super sampling on the HTC Vive. I got messages from a lot of you guys. I had found it independently as well, looking through the comments directed at me about super sampling. Did some more research, tested it last night for about an hour and a half, and just love it. Like it's a really cool feature for a game that was sorely lacking it in Elite. That video talks more about how it actually helps the clarity of the text and stuff, so I won't hammer on that here, but I will explain what super sampling is, just quickly in a nutshell. So think of when you draw a line on a computer screen. Computer screen's made up of pixels, circles, etc., right? Whenever you draw a line or a curve on a computer screen, you're going to get jaggedness. Depending on your resolution, the higher the resolution, the smoother that line looks. You can still have jaggedness on a higher resolution, it's just there's more pixels. It masks it, the illusion of that high resolution masking the jaggedness, right? Super sampling is kind of like anti-aliasing, and aliasing is that jaggedness. Anti-aliasing is getting rid of that. Traditionally, it's done through kind of brute force algorithms that smooth it over. In super sampling, what it does is what I just said about high resolution, it kind of mimics that. So internally, it'll take a scene, draw it at a much higher resolution so that it has those additional pixels, run its calculations on smoothing it with those extra pixels in mind, and then redraw or render it on the native display, whether that's your monitor or your HMD, right? So if you're hearing about super sampling, you didn't know what it was, that's all it is in a nutshell. You can see how that comes with some overhead, right? Because your graphic card, your GPU, has to do all that number crunching before it draws it. So it's crunch, draw, right? And that will slow things down a little bit. But the end result, particularly for me, was awesome. Again, more on that in that video if you want to hear more. The next topic I want to talk about is Revive. And the topic of DRM with the Oculus Rift. So a couple of videos ago I talked about how they lifted the DRM. Really, they lifted one aspect of DRM, and that was the hardware check, which checked to see if you had a Rift plugged in. Lots of DRM remains. And think of DRM this way. Compare it Steam to good old games, right? If you're not sure what DRM is. Steam, you download your game, you can install it, but for the most part you have to be online to play it. You can set it up in offline mode, but that requires, doing a signature check and readying it kind of for offline mode. There were some bugs early on in Steam's life on that. They've pretty much smoothed that out. But the point is you basically need Steam to do some kind of check before you can play a game. That's DRM. Contrast that to good old games, which is you download the game, we have zero control over what you do with that. We don't care where you install it, how many times. We expect you to be honorable. We expect you to honor the license agreement, but there's no other protection. You can install it numerous times. Your wife's machine, yours, kids, cousins. There's nothing stopping you except, ethics, the law, etc., right? But there's no DRM in the software. That's basically what DRM is. So they lifted that one aspect of it. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the developer for Revive can focus more on making stuff compatible and making it work. So this latest release sees him up to 35 working Rift games on your Vive, which is pretty cool, right? Again, a little bit of tech knowledge is a good thing for doing something like that. Not that it's too complicated for the average person, but there are some steps. It's not as easy as playing a commercial Rift or Vive game on the native device. You need to know a little bit more than that, right? But I just thought that was an important distinction, so I throw that out there. So one aspect is gone, but absolutely, in terms of the Oculus Store, other DRM things remain. Now, this one kind of ticked me off a little bit, guys. This is the Oculus Rift supply chain again. So I told you guys a few days ago, I think it was Friday, that I received an email saying my Vive was being readied for shipment. Well, I've gone back to the website and my order status still says TBD, which is to be determined. So I'm not sure what readying the shipment actually means. And within the context of what I'm about to say, it kind of ticked off, and that is that word just came in that Amazon is going to be stocking Vives again for sale. And by the time you guys get my message on that, they probably are sold out already. So I don't know if that was an allocation agreement that they had ahead of time. I didn't get the chance to dig that far into it. So this may very well be an agreement that they had with Oculus way ahead of time, that they would get X number of units every month, right? That's a possibility. It's the aesthetic, the way it looks, and the way it feels to guys like me who've had an order since the beginning of May. It just doesn't paint a nice picture, because you're seeing people now able to go onto Amazon. They could conceivably get it quicker. Just like my situation with the Vive, where I got it quicker than some of you waiting for replacement parts. Wasn't fair. It was just by benefit of, being escalated that I got it within a day, literally like 2 days, right? So it's that kind of aesthetic. It just doesn't paint an awesome picture. So hopefully that's what it was, a pre-allocation agreement, right? If any of you know, let me know in the comments below, because I'm curious and I will dig into it. HTC is spinning off their VR division, which I thought was interesting. But when you actually look at their numbers, apparently they've been losing money, right? And a lot of money. I don't know how much of that is attributed to the VR department, but my guess would be quite a bit, because a lot of that's been R&D, right? Readying prototypes and things like that before sales even entered the picture. So they probably got very tight quotas for sales that they got to meet. So what is spinning off going to mean? Well, to some degree, they can focus more specific to that technology without getting clouded over by the supply chain of phones. It's like the last thing that I wanted to talk about, guys, is multiplayer. And multiplayer is one of those cool areas of gameplay that really has the potential to kind of ratchet up anything, right? I mean, just look at the history of multiplayer stuff. Like when stuff really started going, multiplayer was in the 90s, you had what were called MUDs. And they were basically originally just text-based, online, kind of text-based D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. Think of it that way, like role-playing games that you could play with other people with a text interface, right? That graduated obviously into stuff like Meridian and EverQuest and World of Warcraft, right? On the other side of the coin, you had the stuff like Doom, right? Counter-Strike went off into its own direction. So what's going to be really cool is seeing where virtual reality takes multiplayer. And so many of you have been hammering hover junkers to me. I don't know if you saw that, but in a couple of videos ago, you could see the icon. It's not for lack of installing, it's just lack of time. So it's there, definitely want to try it. And I'll have a video dealing with the multiplayer side of it, because I think there's some really cool stuff that they could be doing and stuff that they are doing that I want to get out there to you guys. But for now, it's just kind of you know, keep it as a seed. We'll revisit that. But in the meantime, can you let me know if you guys have any multiplayer games that you recommend? I don't care if I've heard it before. Just on the odd chance that you throw a gem my way, let me know. So hover junkers is one that I'm aware of. And of course now it escapes me that I'm trying to think. But if there's anything else for multiplayer VR, let me know. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you found it informative. And as always, cheers.